Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dad Challenge Podcast. This is part 2 of the Labrant saga of their A documentary, and we went over a bunch of crap. Just go watch it if you haven't seen it. I'm trying really hard to not dismantle them completely, because yes, I have had generational hurt and trauma in my life, and then stacked on top of that was spiritual abuse and spiritual hurt from the church, religious hurt. But it doesn't make me less of a believer in God. It actually makes me more of a believer, and against so much of what religion taught me and what I believed before. Okay, so I'm really trying to struggle with all that, while at the same time trying to balance this thought between what they're really doing. But in the end, I really want to prove to you their hypocrisy, and that's it. So let's go. Okay, so we left off with him saying his grandmother chose life for him. So let's hear how that went.
Well, when my mother was around 18 years old,
Granny,
she found herself pregnant and with no family except a brother that would take her in and take
Wait, is this Savannah's mom?
care of her. And she delivered me and kept me for 4 months and really wanted to keep me. But times were very hard in 52, and she was a waitress and I was sick and trying to afford to take care of me and take me to the doctor. There wasn't a lot of help back then for any kind of supplements or anything, so she chose to give me up. But she first...
It bugs me. Sorry, I have to interrupt it. It bugs me so much that somebody like Cole, who outwardly lives so against what Jesus talks about how you're supposed to live, and wears a Jesus loves you sweater. It bugs me so much. It repulses me, and I'm judging him, and I shouldn't be, right? But it bugs me so damn much that what we have seen of these people absolutely zero reflects any teachings of Jesus. The abundance that they live in, the lies that they've made, the exploitation that they do, none of that reflects Jesus whatsoever. If you look at Cole, even Christians who watch me, okay, people who go to church who love Jesus, okay, when you watch the Labrants, do you honestly get that vibe? Do you feel like, man, I want what he has, right? Not the money, not all that stuff, but is there anything that reflects Jesus? Have you ever met somebody who honestly, truly loves Jesus with all their heart? Okay, I mean, I'm not talking about a hypocrite. I'm talking about someone who genuinely has, and I've met lots of people like this. And I was jealous of them because I actually wanted what they had. And to a degree, I lived like that fundamentally. But it's almost like they overcame the fundamental values of Christianity and religion and just surpassed it and became these people that were genuinely joyous, genuinely giving in every way. And you're like, you want that. I'm sure you've met people like that and you don't even know what it was about them, but it could have been that. Okay? Aside from religion, aside from church, there are people who do that. But does he exude that to you? No, I can't. And obviously it's because I know that they exploit their children for money, and then they've done lies, and he's all about him, and he's very narcissistic, and he's like, look at me, how hot I am, and all this kind of there's gluttony involved here. There's narcissism. There's gossip. There's lying. There's a dad in the picture, like a bio dad who they've alienated and done. It's icky. So nothing. Again, every time that this guy comes on and does something like that, it makes it worse for him. You're going to be judged so harshly. If you come across to 13 million people like you're a Jesus follower, but then you live a complete and utter lie, good luck, bro. That's going to be really hard for you when you get to that. Because what Christians believe is when you die, you get judged, right? And if you believe in Jesus, you get to go to heaven, but you still get judged no matter what. And you would judge harshly for everything you've done. And if you are a liar, and if you've told people about who Jesus was, but lived the opposite way, dude, I hope I'm behind him in line and be like, oh, I can't wait to see this shit. I mean, I'll step up and God's like, yeah, you were cold for 5 years of your damn life, Josh, while you were searching for the truth. But I know I'm cold, okay? But I will never be lukewarm ever again. And I was lukewarm for a lot of my life. And I think most Christians, okay, most mainstream westernized Christians, warm as cat piss. Okay, there's nobody there's 2% that are on fire, and those are the people I just spoke about. And then there's The 2% that are like cold like me, who I know that I'm not living the life I'm supposed to, but I'm like, I'm just looking, I'm searching. I'm unapologetically searching for the right way to do this. And then there's that like 96% or whatever right there that think that they are, and they're absolutely not.
Good choice was she chose to let me live.
I'll forever be grateful for my granny's decision. If my grandma did not decide to keep my mom, not only would I not be here, but my kids wouldn't be here. And one day, my kids' kids, and my kids' kids' kids, and so on.
This is the thing that hits really hard for me when I see him talking about this. But like, what if one day Everly decides she doesn't want to follow in the footsteps that you guys have shown her? And I promise you, there's going to be a moment in Everly's life where, if they haven't already, the scales are going to fall off that kid's eyes. And she's going to say, if this is the way that you guys think Christians are, I want nothing to do with this. And what if one day Everly decides that she doesn't want to be pregnant and she got pregnant? What are you going to do? You're going to hate her? You're going to disown her? Right? So a lot of Christian parents have a stance generally until it happens to them. Not a lot of people talk about that stuff. Right? I've got a lot of Christian friends who grew up fundamental, and then one of their kids ended up being something they didn't think. Couldn't even have fathomed. And you know what happens 99% of the time with those Christian families? They change their heart. Big time. Now, they might. But you've created a platform and a stance on something that's so public, it's almost impossible for you not to. Right? I don't know. This just hits me. That hits me.
Saying yes to keeping your baby affects so much more than you could ever imagine. It's so important to rally around these women in a time where they feel so vulnerable.
You should have gave this line to Savannah Cole. Shouldn't have done that, buddy. Sorry, dude. Nope. Because you don't rally around any women, Cole. Again, you have abundant wealth. So how have you rallied around any women doing this? You think making this documentary is going to make... Again, because of who they are, their message is not received. That's got to mean something. Their message is not received. We're going to look at Twitter in a minute after this. Oh, shit, man. This is going to be the longest 2-part series ever. But they're not being received. And why? Because of who they are. This message wasn't for them to give out, is what I'm saying.
In my granny's case, it was her dad who was able to chase off these men. And I'm thankful for my great-granddad, who I never even got to meet, because if he didn't chase them off, I wouldn't be here. So there's so many little pieces that we just need to rally around these women to remind them, even if it's just one person saying, hey, you can do this. Hey, I'm here with you. It's going to be okay.
Shut up. And this is what I did the video in the church. This is Cole speaking as the church right now. This really pissed me off. It's going to be okay. How the F do you know it's going to be okay? And what are you going to do about it to make it okay? Again, this is the problem. This is where we've come this far to this point where nobody believes what you're going to say, church and Cole, because you say that as a stance, and then yet when the kid is born, you do nothing. You do nothing. And churches will give maybe a tiny, minuscule portion of their money to some pregnant center here, that, and there. And there are some churches who do big things, like that church in Florida, in Orlando. But there are some who do. I'm not, for the majority, though, they don't. They're like, you can do this, and it's a sin, but you can do it. Okay. But then if you're not going to put your money where your mouth is afterwards, don't say a word.
We found a ministry called Embrace Grace, and this is exactly what they do every single day. Amy Ford, the founder, is determined to help scared pregnant women be brave.
In the church...
Oh, here comes the Hillsong hat. Here we go. Here we go, Hillsong hat!
The abortion rate is exactly the same inside the church as it is outside the church. There's no difference. So these women are sitting in our pews and scared, don't really know what to do. And even with my own story, I went to church every single week. Why did it not cross my mind that I'm pregnant, I'm scared, I don't know what to do? Maybe I'll go to the church and ask for wisdom, guidance, prayer, support, something. Like, it's the last place you want to go to. So we started Embrace Grace.
She's right. And whose fault is that? The church's fault. The leadership. The stigma that it created. Whose fault is that? It's purity culture. That's whose fault it is. All this shit always has ever landed in women's laps as far as I'm aware, as far as going back to when I go to church. It's always been put on women to you have to dress better so that you don't make your brothers slip up. The men never get hit on this. Women are the ones getting pregnant. Okay? And they're the ones that have to deal with it. They're the ones that have to live with the trauma. The men get off scot-free most of the time and don't have to face the consequences of their sin at any capacity, almost never. So whose fault? She's right, but whose fault is that? Churches. And so she's like, well, so we started something and churches fund it. Okay. So the church passes it off to someone else when it's the church's responsibility that their doors should be open no matter what. And if you need anything, the church should be there for that. I've said this about Stephen Furtick a lot, and we're going to cover his stuff coming up. His son made a hip hop song with like talking about sex and drugs and everything else. And I've said this about Stephen Furtick a lot. I'm not a Stephen Furtick fan. I love Hillsong music just because it's so well written, but I am not a Furtick fan. Okay. And for this reason alone, and any of these churches, is if there's one person inside of your church that has to live off food stamps, okay, you're doing it wrong. There's one person in your church that's struggling with this type of problem and you are not going to talk to them about it or help them through it, you're doing it wrong. If you live in a 17,000 square foot mansion, okay, and you drive a Rolls Royce or whatever the hell you drive, and you're in a private gated community, no one can talk to you as a pastor of the church, you're doing it wrong. If there are any family struggling whatsoever inside of your church, but you're living the lap of luxury, you're doing it wrong. Churches, time and time again, the biggest, fastest growing churches, all of them, 98% of them are wrong. They're doing it wrong.
As a pro-love movement where we want the church to be one of the first places a girl runs to instead of the last because of shame and guilt. Yeah. We want the church to be like an oasis and a sanctuary for these women that if they're scared and they don't really know what to do.
Sorry, lady. The church will never be an oasis or sanctuary for any women. It's never going to happen. The church is built on patriarchy. Talked a lot about this in the Mormon church as well. The church has always been that way. That's just the way it has been. But that's not how God wanted the church to be. Of course not. But that's how it is. Have you ever been to a church, lady? Have you?
Then we want the church to be a safe place for them. And then also, if they end up choosing abortion, we don't want them to. But if they do, we believe the church should be a safe place for them too, to go to as well for healing and for healing support groups. But we started Embrace Grace, and it's for women with unexpected pregnancies to find hope, community, support. They meet other girls going through the same thing that they are. There are support groups all over the nation, so any church can just press play and have this digital amazing curriculum. And then pregnancy centers or even just word of mouth, they send these girls that are struggling with an unexpected pregnancy, and then they get to...
I'm going to push back a little bit. I like what they're talking about here. Like they're trying to make churches become more like, it's like these churches like Celebrate Recovery and all these types of programs. Churches just do that because they just need to. They're like, well, let's do that Celebrate Recovery. We'll give them 3% of the budget and we'll do that. The most of the budget of a church where it should go doesn't go. You know where the budget of churches go? Salaries. They pay pastors a lot of money. Okay. Most churches, 60% of the budget goes to salary. The church that I worked at, okay, CR, which is Celebrate Recovery, which is something like this. People go there to celebrate the recovery. They get a dinner and they get a message, and it's like they never have good music. They never have good the pastors don't speak there. It's like a halfway house, and it shouldn't be. And the budget's this big for it. When the budget should be 60% for that. The budget should be 60% for centers like this. That church that I served at, the church that I worked at, has a kids wing that would blow your mind. Okay, they have this playground that's like $200,000. Like those playgrounds you pay your kids to go to the gyms, like the kid gyms. They have one of those. They have all these classrooms, a kids wing. What does that thing do during the day? Nothing. It does nothing. Maybe once a week they have like a come and play, and they open up the playground for one day a week for the neighborhood rich ladies to come out in their BMWs and Audis to bring their kids and talk and take pictures and selfies with their like a brown aesthetic on. Okay, it's not. But what that church could be doing, instead of you know, throwing more than half their budgets in salaries, is throwing tons of money behind this place and be like, look, if you have an unplanned pregnancy, if you are a struggling mother, if this, and this, if you fall in any of these categories, we have a free daycare here with a full kitchen. We got groceries for you. We got diapers for you. We are going to get your kid in here and teach them English and fun and how great. You go work, come back and pick up your kid when you're done. You need a car? We'll figure it out. You need a job? There's like 2,000 people in this church, and like 400 of them own businesses that can hire you. Okay, they can leverage the church and the wealth inside the church to get you a damn job. Do you have $2,000 worth of debt? Oh, that really sucks. You know what? Because we are wealthy, because this church is God's church, we're going to give you that $2,000. We're going to pay off your debt. But we're also going to teach you how to manage your money better. Right? There's so many things churches can be doing. How many churches out there in your community sit empty during the day and have kids' wings? How many? And I talked about this in that video too. If we're not challenging our churches to do better with what they have and these incredible resources that they have, we're failing too. If you lobby a church to do that, they'll do it. Churches have volunteer ladies come in and do everything, like dishes, knitting, all this shit. You know how many grandmothers are inside of large churches that would die to just hang out with babies all day long and just help them? They would do it for free. The church leverages volunteer power on Sunday to an insane degree. Churches have full programs and full-time staff members who manage volunteers for free labor. But rarely do you see a church leveraging their power, connections, money, and volunteer power to help single moms. The end.
They're not alone anymore. They feel heard, they feel loved, and they meet other girls going through the same thing that they are. They might all have super unique stories, but they all come together with this common bond of not expecting to be in the situation that they're in right now.
After a conversation with Amy, we were just so encouraged and blown away by all the resources available. And
that we gave her $2 million.
In fact, you can actually click the link in the top of our description box down below, type in your zip code, and just get involved right away.
So what if you're pursuing your dreams, your career, you're going to school, and then an unexpected pregnancy happens? What do you do?
Well, here's what they did. They exploited their child for money on the internet and became millionaires. That's what you did. And so let's just be real here for a second before you guys continue on this shitty, vitriolic bullshit video you're about to do. The amount of people that can do what you've done are less than 0.00001% of anybody who's ever had a baby. Okay? You got effing lucky. So don't come here and I hope they don't spout this because I was in school and I did it because you guys won the effing lottery. Okay? So you can't, I really hope they don't do that because I'll be really upset.
Your baby and your dreams too.
So I'm fast forwarding through a lot of this because it's so effing long, but basically this is a church video. This is how it's done. The person that's doing this documentary likely works for a church in the media department. Okay. Likely. Because this is every video I've ever done at a church. And I've done a lot of them. Okay. So they put the music, they tell the story, they get a professional on, they tie it all together. And this is what you would show. This is a lot of things that you would see at a church. Okay. And so they're trying to tell the story, but again, it always comes back to them that they're the professionals in this thing.
We absolutely loved our conversation with Shanice. Her personality is just so infectious, and we know that she's just going to go on to do such incredible things. She's already doing incredible things. She's the perfect example of being able to have your baby and your dreams too. She's pursuing this bomb mom's career, and we just wanted to invest into that and sow into her because she's doing it right now.
Yeah.
One story that's...
So they're giving money to bomb moms. Good for you, bomb moms. I love it. Again, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing here, but he's going to invest in bomb moms, which is great. But I haven't heard him say, we're going to invest in single moms who, there are so many centers out there that do what I've been saying, who are not connected to churches. But if these people aren't going to leverage their enormous following to lobby churches to use their wealth and space to do this, I don't want to hear a word. But you're going to invest in mom bombs, which is fine. But you didn't say you were going to invest in anything else.
Stood out in particular was the story of Dana. She was homeless, living out of her car, raising her kids, literally out of her car.
I'm just going to skip.
So got a bunch of our friends, a bunch of the church together.
Free.
Savannah and I both just felt led to give her a gift. We weren't expecting to do that, but we were just so encouraged and motivated by her story that we knew that we had to act on this. So I just want to encourage you guys that if...
Okay. I didn't hear the story because I fast forwarded it, but I know he said, we just gave her a gift. Cool. And I know I just said, don't, if you're going to do something, but notice how they're saying every time when they hear someone's story that they give them a gift of money, right? They don't have to say that. What I want to hear from them is that we donated this enormous amount of wealth to this program, not to a single person. Or I want to hear them say, look, anybody who donates to this link below, we are going to match your donation to this pregnancy center or to this program. Because they do this a lot. They did this with the cancer kids and everything else too. They're like, oh, we gave them money. Nobody wants to hear that because they're not really making any change. Those women have already gone through the thing that you are happy they went through. They had their babies and you're cool. But when are you going to give the money to the ones who are right now are struggling? Until you do that, you're just virtue signaling. Until you leverage your massive platform. Imagine you said, hey kids, everybody who watches this show, if you go to a church, here's a video I want you to show them. And I want you to encourage your leaders to do this thing, right? But they're not doing any of that. This is so shallow. It's just telling these stories, which are great stories, don't get me wrong. But they're telling us, they're trying to give you one side of the narrative, but also saying that we're trying to be like balanced in this because it's not so far.
If you ever felt led to help anybody in any way, even if it's not financially, you can help with your time or anything, you should always act on that.
Really? Oh my gosh. Oh, we're going to present you with this check. You've got to be shitting me. They keep doing this. Stop doing this. White, you can't make it up. White savior complex alert. You can't make it up, everybody. What I want you to do is write a check to like a pregnancy center and give it to them and be like, cut the ribbon or whatever. That's what I want. Not this shit that you're presenting it on video. You got to stop doing this, Cole and Sav. You oh gosh. This is so against what the Bible says too, by the way. Oh, I hate when people do this. I hate it. It's so gross. I'm sorry. It's gross.
Or just somebody to talk to. Keep in mind that pregnancy centers are located all throughout the country. These
just present pregnancy centers with checks. Come on, let's go.
Are completely free and are filled with people that are dedicated and ready to help you figure out your next steps. From an ultrasound all the way to the diapers or food your baby might need. This should have been all this video was about, everybody. This should have been it. If you really wanted to have impact, say, hey guys, if you decide to make this choice that we think is biblical and is important and all that kind of stuff, here's what we want everybody to do. Throw billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars at places like this. The one even local here, there's no way they ever have enough to operate. They can only give help to support to like 20 women at a time, or I don't know what it is, right? Some of them can do more, some can do less. But imagine we actually put our money where our mouth is as Christians. The impact that we would have would be mind-blowing. But they're not talking about, like they're saying that these exist, but we're already 27 minutes in this video, and they could have done this completely different with the platform that they had, except, no, they're writing checks for people, we're going to sponsor mom bombs, we're going to do this. But I hope they write a massive-ass check to this place. Just remember, you are not alone.
To think that there's so many of these places readily available to assist and help these women blows our minds, but we all need to step up and help because these places are free and just offering all these resources, and they run off of donations. I encourage you to get involved with the local pregnancy center to see how you can help potentially donate at these centers.
No link, nothing. You guys understand your platform here. You're going to be making this video that's going to be seen by 1 million people. A third of which are probably going to believe what you have to say here. And so you're going to say, look, there's one that we really like that's national, guys. And for every dollar you donate to this one that we really like, we are going to match your donation because we can afford it. Although I think they're scared to do that because a lot of their haters would probably go bananas and bankrupt them.
One way that we felt led to help was actually to throw a baby shower for this girl named Gypsy. She was amazing, so sweet. We actually got a bunch of her friends, a bunch of the church to gather around her and throw her a baby shower, and we actually fulfilled basically her entire registry. Okay,
and that's great. I think that's fine. But how does that help? When it comes from Cole and Sav, it's a virtue signal. Like, let's be real. They have helped a couple of people. Okay, so you You can't say it's bad that they did that. But what you can say is that, well, if you're actually going to put your money where your mouth is, there's a million other things you could have done with the wealth that you have and the following and the power that you have. So instead, you're going to throw this lavish ass California baby shower and filled her registry with shit that she needed. Instead of throwing a baby shower for your entire county, inviting out everybody to this big ass party and filling up all these pregnancy centers with shit that they need. Look, I know people are gonna be like, well, you're not going to be happy with anything. Like, I'm trying to balance that with being like, good, I'm glad you did it. And she's probably super happy and very, glad for her. But there's so much wasted potential. And they want to stand on this virtue and this, hey, do this thing, except everything that they do and show falls short of what they tell you guys to be doing.
This was just such a beautiful example of a community coming together to love one person. And I feel like so many people say, well, if you can't do something for everybody, then I don't want to do anything for anybody. But what we want to say is we want to do everything for somebody, but we wish we could do for everybody.
Yeah.
No, sorry. That's a cop-out. Because you can do way more than most people can. Your platform is massive. You guys have an enormous amount of people that watch you. You have an enormous amount of wealth. And so that's a cop-out. Because what you've done is what any of your fans could do. Right? Get your girls together, find someone in your community who needs help and do this. That's cool. Here's how you do that. Here's a cool way of doing that. And here's a video that we made for you to do that. Blah, blah, blah. Except they're saying, well, we have millions and millions of dollars and we gave a penny away. And so that's what we pat ourselves on the back. Again, I'm not trying to diminish that they have done good things, because that is awesome that they've done that. But what he just said there doesn't make sense to what God, if you think like they have, has given them. If they honestly believe God has given them this platform to talk about this type of stuff, then why are they doing this much when they could be doing this much?
And so it was just a beautiful orchestration.
Sorry, I'm going to read. And that's so indicative of churches. Ask any church in your community, because I'm pretty sure it has to be public anyway. They might not answer your question, but ask how much they give to the community or give to, overseas missions. It's likely around 10%, right? They don't actually give of an abundance, even though they ask their congregation to give gladly and abundantly all the time. Churches are opposite generally. I'm not saying all of them. When I say churches, I mean generally. The ones I've served at, okay? Just ask. You can go ask. These records should be public. They're nonprofit organizations. You should be able to get a hold of their numbers and see what they're spending their money on.
And of what we felt like to do for this one person, and we want to do more of it.
Yeah, and encourage us to do more.
We want to encourage you to get involved. Maybe not throw a baby shower if that's not what you're capable of, but you're capable of helping in some way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cole. Like standing outside with his $200 shoes on. I'm homeless. Here's some money.
Aside from
this guy, they have no idea.
Dr. Anthony Levatino, what would you say to a young woman who comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, I'm thinking about having a baby. What do I do?
A caution for the audience.
This guy's reading off a computer.
Don't ever talk about an abortion as being a convenience. That so-and-so had an abortion because it's the convenient thing. Pregnancy is not convenient. Never, ever.
Sorry, do you know who you're talking to here? Pregnancy is not convenient. You're speaking to Cole and Sav Labrant with 18 million or 16, 12 million subs whose pregnancies have been ultra convenient for them, meaning huge paydays. So just consider your company.
Understand that women who are contemplating abortion are under tremendous stress. They are worried about their education. They are worried about their finances. They don't want mom and dad to know she's been having sex with Johnny. Whatever it is that's driving her, there are powerful forces and powerful things within her mind driving her to consider an abortion. And it's very important when you're talking to someone in pregnancy who's contemplating an abortion to keep that in mind. To understand and be empathetic about the tremendous stress that she's under. When those situations arise...
These people make me sick, just watching them. It's because it's just, again, their persona and the fakeness of everything. It just gets to you. Cole, you should have just funded the documentary and not put your name on it, put your face in it. That's what you should have done. Because you and Savannah completely take away any credibility this documentary could have had. Do you not realize that?
I would do my best to understand her situation by talking with her, understand what was driving her to that decision. I understand that you're worried about finances, and I understand that you're worried about your education, and I understand that you're worried about the impact on your life in the future. I understand that you may not feel able to provide for your son or daughter in the future.
Okay.
But I want you to understand one thing. There is something that only you can give your son or daughter, and that is a chance to live.
Okay, but they know that. This is I guess they're trying to make it all like sad and everything and like and powerful and all like the statement is like, we get that, dude. But it doesn't answer any of the questions that any of these women are coming for. I understand you can't afford it. I understand you're scared to tell your parents. I understand this, and this. But do you know you can do this? Well, they know that already. And so when you sit there from your high lofty perch of being a doctor who doesn't have to worry about money, you probably drive an expensive car. You live in California, one of the most expensive states in the world. Okay. You can't miss these other nuances. Like, they want you to see one side of it. It's black and white. But you can't miss the nuance of all this stuff. There's a lot of Christians, Colin Sav, and people that sit here in this lofty perch of like, don't do the thing. It can be so. We did it. It was so easy. You can totally do it. It's not the reality, unfortunately. I wish it was, and I wish these places could make it reality for these women. But if you're not going to actually answer those questions with like, okay, so I understand that you're scared that you can't finish school. Well, you know what? There's this place I know of that will watch your kid for free. That will help you will put you through school. Okay? It's a church and it's down the road and it's called this. Give them my number. I sent you. Okay? They will do that for you. That question is answered. Your worry is answered. Okay? I understand your parents going to have a big problem with this, but here's a family counselor that will do this for free. And they offer this service for free for you and your family. And so, it might not go as well as you think, or it might be awesome. But family counseling is something you should consider, and it's free. Okay? And that's just two examples of something he just said there, right? But the reality is that is never something that they're given, generally, I don't think. Not that I've ever heard of. Or we wouldn't be in this position. Churches would not be in this position. People who are pro-life would not be in this position. Okay? Those are real worries, and by saying, well, yeah, don't worry about that because of this thing, that doesn't overcome their worries. Do you guys see that? Am I the only one seeing that?
Very same chance that you have to enjoy life.
So basically his answer is to guilt them into not doing it. So no, that was not, with just because you put soft music behind it doesn't make that truth. So basically they said, what are you going to say to somebody? And then he, with some, soft music said, I know you have those worries, but you could also just give birth, and that's life that you have. Don't forget that you're alive and that you can do that. You guys are not hearing that, right? That's not the answer. The answer is actually quite simple and quite easy. And unfortunately it is, because churches won't do it. It's money every single effing time. We know that money doesn't bring happiness, right? But money can solve problems. Money can alleviate worries. Money is the root of, if you look at the people that are doing these 2,000 A's a day, of the most part, most of them come from poverty, right? And when they come from poverty, they don't know when their next paycheck's coming. They might be living on welfare. They might be homeless, right? And the answer will be money. Could you imagine this for a second? A church that has, let's take North Point, for example, right? North Point, so I like North Point, to be honest with you. But imagine a church like North Point with a $50 million a year budget across their 4 or 5 campuses. What do they have? $50 million. Let's take Lakewood, Joel Osteen's church. I imagine their annual budget's similar, $50, $60 million. Okay? They found piles of money in their bathroom wall. So imagine that church could answer those problems. So let's say the average poor person has $5,000 worth of debt. Even a couple thousand. They're overdrafting their bank accounts. Most people, have unpaid phone bills, have unpaid like utility bills and things that they just couldn't do. And it compounds. But most poor people don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. If you have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, you were likely wealthy before that. So I'm talking, I wish I had the answer. I wish I knew this because I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I am because I grew up poor, and people I know who grew up poor like that had debt, but it wasn't like debilitating debt to those of us who live upper middle class, right? So imagine this, a church like Lakewood or any of these large churches with tens and tens of millions of dollars worth of budgets, paying off the debts of every single mother in their congregation would be not even a drop. They wouldn't even feel it. It's their Sunday budget for feeding their worship team. You know what I'm saying? It's like their budget for like buying Kleenex or toilet paper. Okay, it's nothing. And they could easily do it, but they don't, because they don't want to set a precedent and they don't want people to come in and just taking it. But here's the thing, even if people are taking advantage of it, so it's not yours, it's Jesus's money. You think Jesus would be upset that people are taking advantage of this free money because they need it? No, he'd be giving it freely. Yeah, take it. I don't need it. You don't need it either. You don't need a private airplane, Joel Osteen. You don't need that shit. You don't need your fake ass teeth and your Rolls Royce and your limousines and your 25,000 square foot $1 trillion mansion. You don't need that shit. Okay? These people need it, and it wouldn't even affect you anyway. You'd still be rich and ugly inside. Hey, your church would still be very wealthy. It would not change anything. So even if there are single moms in there, you could even set parameters to how they can get these things, and that they have to go through courses to like figure out how to budget and all these things. You're helping in more ways than one. But imagine that for 1 second. So what this guy is saying there doesn't answer any questions, but all these churches all over the world could easily do it and wouldn't even like dent their budget.
Only you can provide that to them.
Fortunately, we got to participate in an event called One Day LA, where at this One Day LA, over 20,000 people just got to go and serve and love the city. They got to eliminate millions of dollars in medical debt and furnish homes where kids were literally getting taken by their parents because they didn't have furniture, just for the simple things. And families got to stay together instead of getting their kids put into foster care systems, and just clean up the city and serve the homeless community. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And
this triggers me. So they did this thing for like 3 hours of their day. Churches do this a lot, and I struggle with it because I have been part of that, and I've been the person that's helped, and I felt good about myself, and the church has felt good about what they've done to the community, and it has helped people. But at its core, like short-term missions, to like when I went to Kenya, I struggle with that because I'm like, maybe you should have did the $50,000 it took to send all of us and just given it to them. Right? Because at its core, it's still this white savior complex. The Christian church is so guilty of white savior complex. And instead of, doing that, just pay people to do it. I don't know how else to say it. It's just such a struggle for me because it is good inherently what they do. And I want the church to do it more. But at the same time, people like Cole and Sav who don't do this shit, who vlog their life for money, come out and they film it. It just rubs me the wrong way because of who they are. You can't. At its core, all this stuff is great, but because Cole and Sav are doing it, it diminishes it. I mean, at its core, that's what this entire video is about, of me, what I talk about them. It doesn't matter what they talk about virtually, no matter what virtuous thing that they're going for, because it's them who is doing it, it means less because we know they're fake.
This isn't just a one-day thing. They're wanting to do this in so many cities across America, and you're thinking, wow, I want to get involved with that. And I feel like it all starts with just a question of, why don't we have this? How can we do this? And in fact, every solution starts with a question, So ask the question, get it started.
We just want to encourage you to click the link below and get involved with all the resources with Embrace Grace. Don't be afraid. It's nothing to be ashamed of. They're there to love you. We're here to love you. We just want to help.
We learned so much in the making of this documentary, and obviously we have so much more to learn. We hope that this is only just a start, just the ripple effects. We don't know what's to come from it.
Again, Cole, it's not the message. It's the messenger. You need to realize that. And unfortunately, that's going to suck for people who are narcissists. They can't believe it. They don't want to believe it. There's no way. And when you have lost trust of people because of things you've done in the past and the lies you've created and the wealth that you've built off exploitation, you already have a whole swath of people that don't believe what you believe. And then they also see what you see. And it's almost like you reverse the message. It's like it makes it worse. Does that make sense?
So much more that we can personally do that I know you watching can do. I feel like our nation just loves to divide us, that you're either this or you're this, but I just want to start a conversation.
No, this whole video is you're this or this. Don't give me that shit. You're not starting a conversation.
And just be like, what can we both do? How can we both get more involved to rally around these women?
No, your whole stance on this is that A is wrong. And it's fine. You're allowed to have that stance, but don't say, what can we do both ways? The only thing that this video gives is a solution to, like, hey, there's local pregnancy centers, go support them, right? And that doctor that says that one thing that we can't forget is that, you know, you can give life, and that's the argument I'm going to give, but they know that already. So you didn't put your money where your mouth was. Well, you did to a degree, but you showed it on camera. You didn't use your massive platform to tell people to go do any of these things. You're just like, here's the conversation. How can we help either way? No, your whole video is based on the premise that A is wrong, the end. You've missed that. That's something that you guys didn't consider.
And to help them and to love them.
Where's the part of this video for those who have done it? And like, here's some centers that deal with post-traumatic, you know, stress disorder, or I think women who have had A's do also get postpartum depression and everything else. Where's the portion of the video for those who've already done it? Where's the help for them? The post-care help for that. There's no portion of that video here. So it's not balanced to any degree. You're only talking about before, and you only want to celebrate those who have made the choice not to, which is fine, but you're not being forthcoming with that message.
And to serve them better. So while we were in Texas, we sat down with Israel Jones, who actually went through with an abortion, to later find out a few months later that she's now having this miracle baby. And it's just one of the most insane stories that we've ever heard.
No. All right, so here it is. This is the end of the video, because they're going to keep telling stories, and they want to, like, emotionally do that. And, you know, that's tools at their disposal, and they believe what they believe, and so they should do it. Go for it. That's fine. But don't pretend that you're doing this from a balanced perspective of both sides, because you didn't. You didn't show the other side at all. You didn't say, hey, if you've done that, you know, you're loved. Where in this video did they tell people who have done the thing that they are so opposed, that they're still loved, that they're still valued, that God still loves them? Where's that? Unless I missed it. Maybe I did, because I did fast forward a bunch. But I almost guarantee it's not in this video. Where's that part of the video? And I'll get to that in a second. But you knit me together in my mother's womb, and praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That right there, I get what they're saying there, and this is why I do believe that Christians can have the stance that they have because of that. I do believe that. I believe Christians believe that. I believe the Bible does say that. But they're missing a whole other side of this, which is grace. So I'm going to take you guys to church right now, because they already want to celebrate everybody who's not going to do it. And that's great, right? Life is life, and I do believe in life. I want to say here, as an ex-pastor, I'm going to take you guys to ex-church for a second. This portion of this video is laid out for those of you who've decided to go through with it, who have done it in your past and feel immense guilt for what you've done. For the women who did go to church, who still do, who have done that. For women who don't believe in God, but still have maybe felt guilty because of videos like this, or Twitter, or the social media, or groups around you that have judged you for what you have done. For those of you who've been severely and harshly judged by Christians, who've walked down a Planned Parenthood sidewalk and have been called a whore, who get messages in their inbox from people around them and say, I can't believe you did that, who get judged silently, who can't speak and don't want to tell anybody because it's a deep, dark secret and you think you're going to be judged for it. For those women who chose to do this because you had no other options, God loves you. You deserve to be loved. You don't deserve to feel guilty. Every single human being on this earth has sinned. And so if you are a person of faith, or were at one point, and are feeling guilty of the spiritual side of this because you think it's the worst thing you could have possibly done, know this, that sin has always just been sin, no matter what. And the judgment has been unfairly levied on you more than anything else by those who are likely worse than you, who harbor more sin in their hearts because of the judgment that they've cast on you. So I need to bring it back to this moment here, that those of you who have done this in your life, you probably have not heard this from a lot of people from the faith, from people who are Christians or from the church. You probably haven't. If you have, good, but I don't think a lot of you have, but maybe it's time for you to hear it. You are still very valuable. Your past does not determine who you are now. The things that you had to do for your life does not make you a bad person today. If you have to make that choice, And people are going to judge you for that choice. Know this. And again, this is just really for people who really believe in God, okay? Not for anybody else. Even though if you want to hear it, it can be for you too. But God loves you more than you'll ever know. There's this thing called unconditional love. I know a lot of people, I know this sounds cheesy and is a little bit like, and I got the church music going here. But that unconditional, that word means a lot. It's incredibly powerful, that word, because what it means is that it doesn't matter what you've done, what you're doing now, or what you will ever do. You are covered. Okay? And the church has unfairly levied so much judgment on these communities and has created castaways that will never come back. But I hope you hear this. And if someone needs to hear this, just send them this part of the video. Those of you who have done any of these things, those people who have judged you can suck my ass. You didn't deserve it, because nobody deserves to be judged by people that call themselves Christians. On the contrary, okay? On the contrary, it should be the opposite. You should feel the most loved by those people who consider themselves Christian. And if you haven't, I'm sorry. Because I was likely that person back in the day too. I contributed to that by being a pastor of a church like that. I contributed to that by believing the things I believed because I was taught to believe those things. So on behalf of them, not even my responsibility, but I apologize for them. And more churches need to step up from their podiums and apologize to the world for what they have done and the judgments they have cast unfairly on everybody. Because God's love covers all. The end. That should be where it lands. And these people who talk about love did not show any love for those who have already done it. There was no resources shown for that. That's church for today. I don't often do that, but I think sometimes it really needs to happen. And these people just are so blind to their privilege, to their power, to their savior complexes that they don't see that what I just said is probably the most important thing that they could have said. And they didn't even touch on it. And I don't even consider myself a Christian, quote unquote, anymore. A believer, yes. A Christian, I don't know. But I do know what the Bible says. And I'm so confident in who God is and what he has told us and of his love. And nobody can deny that. Everybody take a deep breath. Everybody who comes to this channel, these types of videos, they're rare, but they're there. And I know that my message is not always received, and I say that the messenger matters, and that I can come across angry and evil and super misogynistic and everything else. But again, I have to repeat this all the time. My message has a purpose. But if you don't exploit your kids, if you're not like an evil person, if you are an inherently good person who takes care and protects kids and things around you, you're none of those things that I say. You are excellent, you are valuable, and people need you. And I say that a lot, and I need to say it more. You are needed. These people who do all this garbage to people around them without any thought about their futures and privacy and everything else are wrong. But you are here for a reason, and I'm so thankful you are. So never forget your value and your worth, okay? It is huge. And I want to thank you again for being here. Tough video, of course. These ones are hard, but I will see you tomorrow.